Because I want to finish close to 10 o'clock, we won't go into all the scriptures. But I don't know if anybody else, did Bethany Gaspar send you that thing with the African children? Anybody else? She sent it to me.
Where they're sitting in a circle?
Yeah.
I've seen it before. I
Okay.
didn't get it from her, but...
Right. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I had never seen it before, and she sent it to me this last week with the children sitting in the circle, and then the little paragraph about the anthropologist who, was with these children and decided to play a game with them, and placed a basket of fruit over by a tree, and basically said, when I say go, go ahead and you can run, and whoever gets the basket of fruit, wins, kind of thing. And expecting the children would do that, like our Western competitive mind and nature and the whole thing. And instead, when he yelled go, they got up and they ran to get the basket of fruit, but they all held hands so that they all arrived at the tree at the same time. And no one person won the basket of fruit. They all did. And then what you see, the picture that she sent, is the most adorable thing of all these little children. They're sitting in a circle, but their feet are all meeting, like this, in the circle. So their bodies are outside the circle, and their feet form the circle on the inside as they're eating. And the anthropologist himself was fascinated, by what they did. And he asked them why they did that. They could have had a lot more if they had run individually, and whoever won would have had the whole basket. And the reply was this African word Ubuntu. They just said Ubuntu to him, which he didn't know what that meant. And the child said, how can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? Kingdom mentality does not get that. I'm telling you right now. We will say we do. We'll go, oh wow, yeah, but we don't get it. And I know we don't get it because we don't live it. There's no sense saying we get it if we're not living it. That's weird. If you know what I'm saying. It's kind of weird. Ubuntu actually means I am because we are. That's beautiful, isn't it? I like that word, Ubuntu. You've probably heard the story of the Special Olympics. There's all kinds of variations on the Special Olympics that took place in the 80s in Seattle, and how there was a 100-yard dash for the Special Olympic, the kids. And again, it's a race, and they blow or they shoot off the gun to start it. They all start running as best they can. And one of them falls, and all the rest turn around and go back and help the one up who fell, and lock their arms and just walk down the track so they all cross the finish line at the same time. It's a great story. Truth. I've come to bear witness of the truth. There's a great story in 1 Chronicles 11 that some of you, if you've been around me for a while, you may have heard me. It's one of my favorites in the whole Bible. And I was going to, but I'm not going to because it's getting close to 10. It's about David and the nation of Israel defending a barley field.
Tell us. Talk fast.
Oh, we could read it. In fact, let's read. Okay, let's read it. It's only it's 3 verses. 1 Chronicles, chapter 11, verses 13 and 14.
He was with David at Pasdammim, when the Philistines were gathered together there to battle, and there was a plot of ground full of barley, and the people fled before the Philistines. They took their stand in the midst of the plot and defended it, and struck down the Philistines, and the Lord saved them by a great victory.
Isn't that a great story? There's a footnote off to the side, because it says that it was a barley field. It was harvest time. And when it's harvest time is when the enemy attacks. He doesn't attack when it's not harvest time. So that's another story in itself. But here they are, there's a barley field. The Philistines attack. Now, if you're going to defend a field, let's say this was the field. Take a rectangular field. If you were going to defend that field full of barley from the enemy, how do you think you would position your soldiers, warriors, whatever?
Around
Okay,
the
Mary, you're pointing that you would put them around the parameter, or whatever. So would I, by the way. That would make sense to me. I guess there's a lot of different ways of defending it. I guess you could put, some there and then maybe some other ones throughout, like fill the field. But I'll tell you one thing I would never think of. I would never think of positioning myself in the middle of the field with any kind of expectation of being able to defend it. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, to me it doesn't. Unless I wasn't going to defend the field. Unless I was counting on God to defend the field, and what I was going to do was live the purpose for which He created me, which was to stick together. Which they do. The word mitzvah, it means middle. It means right in the middle of the field. They all gathered in the middle of the field with the barley all around them. And God gives them the victory. Question has to be asked. Why? They look really stupid. Yeah, because this world's way of thinking about things is not the truth. Don't expect people to understand your purpose. When you all gather together in the middle of the field, don't expect people to get it. But what you can expect for God to deliver you, and your barley is safe and you will eat for another season. Because you honored what He honors. It's a principle. It's just one of those principles that they defended the barley field from being in the middle, and God gives them the victory because they are acknowledging His purpose, that they are functioning as one. Let's go back to John 17 and read 2 verses, and we will be done. Back in John 17, we're not giving it up yet. Read verse 11 and then verse 21.
Verse 11.
Yes, 11 and then 21.
And I am no more in the world, and yet they themselves are in the world. And I come to thee, Holy Father. Keep them in thy name which thou hast given me, that they may be one, even as we are.
And then to 21.
That they may know, wrong one. That they may all be one, even as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be in us, that the world may believe that thou didst send me.
We hit another purpose. And it's the same one as... You see, when we stick together, and this becomes a real indictment about denominations, when we stick together and we function and relate as one, as Jesus prayed, Jesus is saying there's something about that will be a sign to the world. They will believe. They will believe. Why? Because we can't stick together. We can't stick together. Even the church doesn't stick together. Imagine if we did. While we're all working on our evangelism programs and the best tracks the world's ever seen and the best drama teams and worship, we're doing all this stuff. And He's saying, you know what? If you just love one another, if you just stuck together, that is not of this world. That is not of this world. If you function as one, the world will know. They'll believe. Why? Because you'll be positioned in the middle of a barley field like a bunch of fruitcakes, and I will be feeding you. And the enemy will be dropping like flies. And somebody's going to say, I think these guys are onto something. This love thing, loving one another, sticking together, being one, functioning as one as Jesus prayed, there's something to that. I see it. It's true. You're bearing witness of the truth. Right now, what's going on in South Carolina, in Charleston, is rocking the nation. And I had said last Sunday morning, a couple weeks ago, from 1 Corinthians chapter 2, if they had known they were crucifying the King of Glory, the Lord of Glory, they wouldn't have done it. If they would have known that they were driving a nail in their own coffin. Permanent, eternal one. And this kid that went into the church really thought that by doing what he did, he would cause another civil war, and there would be so much racial violence in the country. He was foaming at the mouth and drooling about exploiting the racial tension and problems that we already have and having people killing each other. And instead, in this particular city, the church, mind you, fascinating that it's the church. He could have gone any place and killed 9 black people. He goes into a church and does it. Now, if you don't think that's the enemy spitting in the face of Jesus, and just like in Job, we talked about these things. He has limited knowledge. He has a limited effect. And instead, this church, the church rises up and says, we forgive you. And instead, you've got thousands of people in the streets, black and white, hugging each other, praying with each other, loving each other. That which he thought for evil, God thought for good. Now, I'm not saying this happened because I don't necessarily believe it did. But the way my mind works, I picture like these 9 souls, these people that were killed. Could you imagine God coming to them before that prayer meeting and saying to them, listen, before the night is out, there's been a request for your lives. And I'm going to allow somebody to come in here and kill all 9 of you. But I want you to know something. Like Esther, you were born for such a time as this. I'm telling you right now that this young man thinks it will divide America. And I am telling you, he's going to kill you, and your blood is going to bring peace into the nation. And racial tension will stop. Are you going to go to the prayer meeting or not? And it is a profound question. I think it's a question that all of us has to answer. Are you going to go to the prayer meeting or not? Would you be willing? Do you see the purpose? When you see your purpose, Fuchsia said you never have to preach commitment if they know their purpose. If you see your purpose, could my life along with 8 others bring healing to a nation? But I want to see my grandchildren get married. You can't, yeah, from heaven. See, to me, the things that I'm talking about, that I feel like I'm sharing and preaching about, to me are very real. They're very, very real, and they're around us, and they're here. We're here in this room. These are the things we're talking about. But I do think, it's like Derek Brown said to me years ago, once you've had a revelation of the body of Christ, you can never turn away. You're shot. You're done. Once you've had that revelation, and it really, really clicks, you'll never be satisfied with church on Sunday morning again. And he's right. I'm paraphrasing him, in case he's watching. I'm paraphrasing him. That what he was saying, you will not be satisfied with being part of the club, so to speak, if you're not functioning in each other's lives and loving one another and supporting one another, caring for one, whatever it is, being part of the same body, like Paul says. individuals but interdependent, a community. So, I could go on and on about this because I've got tons and tons and tons of examples. The whole Bible. From creation, if you can show me one thing in creation that functions totally on its own without interacting with the rest of nature, I'd be interested to see it. Because everything in nature, everything God created, is dependent upon each other and interacts together. Jesus himself said he's not going to do this without his disciples. The Trinity itself is a picture of Father, Son, Holy Spirit interacting. It's a community. The Bible's full of it. And I'll just leave it with that our purpose apart from each other, apart from God, is no purpose at all. So, if, again, knowing God's direction, we've been talking about purpose. If it separates me from God or each other, I tell you right now, it's not God's direction. It's an easy way to figure it out. If it draws us closer together, if it draws us closer to God, if we can see God's pleasure in it, some of the other things, then we know that we're going. I mean, I get it. I don't know what the end looks like. You talk to Abraham, where are you going? I don't know. God just told me to go. Well, where are you? I don't know. Well, how will you know when you get there? Because he'll tell me. That's all you need to know.